Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Wrecking Crew Comedy Podcast, and today I have this is a truly unbelievable. We were trying to get Vincent Price, and it turned out we couldn't get him. So we ended up getting Mitch Markowitz, who is, he and his brother created Hilarious House of Frankenstein, a show that I grew up watching. Me and my brother. My brother is more of the horror fan. My younger brother, he would sit there and go, "Who? I can't stand my brother." But he was just talking to my kids right now, and he was on the phone on Facebook, and he's telling them what they want for Christmas, and he's telling them not, don't swear like your father. And I'm like, just tell him to shut up and just tell him what you want for Christmas. I just, Mitch, he's one of these guys. Were you close with your brother?
Uh, it's been an off and on thing, but we've definitely had our close moments and we've had our distance moments.
It's
But
weird.
I think all families are like that.
Well, it's weird. Me and my brother were very, very close when we were younger, and then as we got older, we just don't talk, which is
Why does
sad.
this feel? Why does this feel like you're lying on a leather couch and I'm sitting in a chair beside you, listening to you?
Well, that's usually God. I feel like you know me so well. Um, no, I went to a psychiatrist once, and I honestly, he's like, you have anger issues, and I nearly beat the shit out of him for saying that. I mean, I was like, why would you say something so stupid, so unbelievably stupid? And he was in a corner and crying, and I left. And I cried after. He charged me $100. So I was the one who got screwed over there. But yeah, I don't. Yeah. It's weird. You have this relationship. Me and we were so close. We grew up in Toronto on Jane and Lawrence, and we used to watch the show. Uh,
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you were from Kingston.
no, no, I was not from Kingston. I was from Jane and Lawrence, which if now it's now known as.
I know the area perfectly.
Yeah, yeah. So I grew up. You know that big white building that goes down to Black Creek?
Yep.
That's where we grew up, in that big white building. And if you go back there in one of your collector cars, it would be gone in about 15 seconds. Um,
And then chopped in another 2 minutes.
yes, it would be chopped, and you'd be sitting there going, why did I park it here? Um, you ever do this where you pay a kid to watch your car? You just go, hey, I'm gonna go inside, and here's $10. Watch the
You know what?
car.
You know what, Vito? I did that once, but never in North America. I was in Yugoslavia,
Right.
and we checked into some kind of a little hotel inn kind of thing, and the guy said, if you like, you can pay an extra 10 drachmas or whatever it was, and we have a guy who will watch your car all night. And sure enough, they had a guy who sat outside on the steps with a rifle
Yeah.
who watched the cars.
Well, yeah, because I mean, they do steal cars. They will chop them. Somebody will come. I mean, if you go to, it's funny. You go to these like Bosnia or these countries that are falling apart. Everybody's driving a Mercedes or a BMW, and
Yeah,
I'm like,
absolutely
I
right.
wonder where you got that from. And everybody, it was like the big black market. And I'm like, all these beautiful cars, but yet nobody had, you know, money for food. They had money for liquor, but just nothing for food.
By
Uh,
the way, just to set the record straight,
sure.
and I'm sure you'll agree with this, my guess, somewhere between 85 and 95% of the people who either live now or lived in the past in the corridor, the Jane and Lawrence, Jane and Wilson, Jane and Shepherd area,
Jane and
are
Finch. Yeah.
good, are good, upstanding citizens who have jobs and work and their kids go to school. Then there's another 10%, 5, 10, maybe 15%, whatever, that sort of besmirches the rest of the
Oh God,
community.
I
And
know. I
and it's
know.
a shame, though, man,
It
because
is.
it's, like,
You
not
know.
all Jewish accountants are the same. Not all, Italian whatever are the same. And certainly not all the people who live in that Jane Street corridor can be grouped into one
No,
mass.
which I do every time I drive by. I yell it out. And I'm like, you're all thieves. You'll never get me. And then it's like, oh God, we hit a set of lights.
We just have to quote Donald Trump. You know how he said there were some good people at the rally, and there were some on both sides.
I know, and do you remember when he won? I remember it was like a surreal moment in
I
time.
was at a party. My wife and I were, if you remember Toronto, I'm sure you do. We were at Marché down on Yonge Street
Right.
near King, and there was a Dems abroad party,
Right.
and my wife is a Dem and abroad, so we were invited to the party, and she's she's an expat. She's from Philadelphia, so we were invited to the party, and we went. And until about 10 o'clock at night, I'd been interviewed once there, or twice maybe, by CP24 and some other station. And everything looked rosy. And then it started to go downhill at 10 o'clock. And by 10:30, it was all over but the crying. And by 11:30, there were like 10 people left there. And we were one of them. And we finally just put our tail between our legs and left the building.
But I don't. You know what I don't understand, Mitch? I mean, like, even if you don't like the guy, half the presidents I couldn't stand. I couldn't stand half the cabinetry. I couldn't stand half the prime minister or whoever. But once they got in there, I always wish them to do well, because if they did
Yeah,
well, the
good for
country
you.
does well.
Yeah.
You don't want to wish ill will against. I don't want him to fail, or what do you want? You want unemployment to go down? You want some of the worst things people are saying, and I'm thinking it's not the end of the world, and just don't let him talk to that fat guy from North Korea or South, and we'll be fine. Don't. He, you got these two. They remind me of two bullies that they're in the school year. And it could only always be one bully in the school, the toughest of the tough. And
Yeah.
you have the Kim Jong Un, and you have Trump, but Trump's got a bigger stick. And
Yeah.
Kim Jong Un is like, "I'll show you," and it's just like two bullies, just two children going at.
Yeah.
That's what I don't like. I'm like, if I was president, I would. The last thing I would do is get people to shit their pants. To think, oh God, I do have a big mouth, but am I going to cause World War III? I mean, I would lay there at night. I mean, last night I didn't sleep a wink because I kept thinking about that poor kid that got bullied,
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
then they turned it into racism and all this stuff, and I'm like, the sins of the father. The father is this um racist guy, but they're calling this one guy, Mitch. He said, he goes, and I rarely ever reply. I just look at the comments, but I had to reply. He put down, and this is a grown ass man, Mitch. He goes, that boy, talking about that Keaton boy. He
Yeah.
goes,
Yeah.
that boy reminds me, looks like Jason without the mask. And I'm like, you're a grown man, and you say that? I mean, I'm a juvenile jackass, and I wouldn't even say that about some kid.
Yeah.
I just, I it just, so I saw these horrible things, and it really does bother me. I just sit there and go, because am I,
It should. It should. No, it
you know,
shows you're a human being.
I remember as a kid, um, I was a tough kid. I mean, I was as tough as they can. I really was, and I used to get into fights all the time with kids that were much older than me, and I would get a reputation of this guy because I fought like a little pit bull. I mean, I would really bite you. I mean, I would follow you in the bathroom, whatever it took. I mean, if you ever want to beat somebody up, and I learned this off a guy that my dad knew that was in the mafia. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking every Italian guy
No,
is in the
no,
mafia, but my dad knew a guy
no.
that
Some of them are barbers.
some of them are barbers. Yeah. And the guy told me, and I remember I was like 12 years old. He goes, "You ever get beat up?" And I go, "No," like a tough guy. Meanwhile, I got scars on my face, and he goes, "You know you do." And I'll never forget this. He goes, if a guy gets you and he beats you up, he roughs you up, has a laugh at your expense, and it did happen. Follow him to the bathroom and make sure when he's taking a dump, kick the door down and beat the shit out of him while he's taking a dump. And I thought, well, what? And he goes, trust me, kid. He goes, he's going to be busy pulling up his pants. Okay? So you're going to get about 4 or 5 good shots in and then run like a mother. And I beat the living crap out of this guy in the bathroom taking a crap. And coming out, I mean, the guy never bothered me again and whatever. And it was great. But my brother, who he's a very gentle person, never got into fights. And I think my brother always held this against me because I wanted him to fight. Because I wanted him to know that that there are going to be times where you can't walk away, where somebody's going to push you. And my brother's like, no, there's always a way out of it. And I'm like, no, in this world, somebody's going to be a goof to you. And they're gonna push you. They're gonna fight
inevitable.
you. Yeah, it's gonna happen. But man, my brother got beat up a lot, and he always thought I was gonna stick up for him, which I regret, Mitch. I regret because once they found out that I was his brother, I mean, if you saw me and my brother, it would look like Daisy's in heaven, my brother, and then me and the intro to Hilarious House of Frankenstein.
Frightenstein.
Frightenstein.
There you go.
I'm sorry. I'm just
there. That's okay. No,
there goes
cool.
my there goes my what I was talking about. There goes that thing. That's great.
No. That's the same error, if you will, that I've heard about a million times in my life, and almost everybody who's interviewed me, and that's been hundreds of people over the years.
Do you ever want to punch them?
No, because everybody does it. And you can't blame them because we all grew up on Frankenstein.
Yes, that's
on the
true.
movies.
That's true.
And the coloring books and the this and the that. I mean, Frankenstein was probably the biggest horror thing in my life growing up. Now, I'm a little older than you, granted. But everybody, regardless of their age, grew up with Frankenstein and Dracula and the Wolfman.
Yeah, they don't make them like that, though. I showed my son the... I love Abbott and Costello, and where Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein is one of his favorites. And my son does not understand. Like, I watch The Stooges, I even, when I watch the show Hilarious House, he'll sit there and go, Dad, you should meet him, and you should meet him. And I'm like, son, he's gone.
How old is your son?
He's just turned 8. So he'll sit, like, we'll watch the Three Stooges, and he'll go,
oh, wait a minute, I met him.
Yes, he was at the show.
In London.
Yes, he had the cape, he had the Superman cape.
I remember him clearly.
Yeah, so he didn't know. He kept saying that's that man, the flying man. I said yes, and he goes, no, it's not. And I said, that's him. I go, I'm telling you, that is him. And he doesn't understand. And it's just, when you're a kid, it's just you don't understand that people age, and that sucks. It really sucks. But, he kept saying, no. And then I showed him a picture, and I go, look. And he's like, not even close. He's like, Dad, that man is much younger, long hair. I'm like, he's wearing a wig. That's his wig, son.
You got that right.
And I'm like, I'm trying. I'm arguing with him, and he's like, no, it can't be him. It can't be him. So, anyways, we'll watch these old shows, and he'll go, he'll see like Billy Van. And when I was a kid, I didn't know, and I felt like an idiot at school when they would say, they would go, Griselda. They would talk about Griselda, or they would talk about the other characters that he would play, Botswana, remember what's his name? But
The one, the Clyde, the Pet Vet,
yes, yes,
the Oracle.
yes. He'd also sometimes put on the gorilla outfit. It was funnier when he would be the gorilla, you know.
Yep.
So my son was like, "You, why don't you meet him?" My son was, he just doesn't understand that he passed away
No.
in 2003,
No.
and it just bugs me. Do you remember when? I mean, Igor, Fishka, um, he passed away during surgery. I understand to try and lose some weight,
Yeah.
and which was a very serious procedure. And I mean, even to this day, it's still a serious procedure. And what was he like as a person? Like, what was he? Um,
He was like you'd imagine Santa Claus would be like a big, jovial, friendly, warm guy. I don't think he had a mean bone in his body. Um, and
where did you find him? Because he just seemed you cannot find anything about him. I tried, and there was nothing. It was just
well, there wasn't much
yeah,
to reference. I mean, he really didn't have a history before us. After us, he did a bit part in a movie, and I think he did a little bit of stand up, but he didn't really have a history. So, you could search from here to tomorrow, and you're not going to find
no,
anything. He was originally from South Africa,
really.
which is a long way to go to do your research. Um, so there wasn't much to find, and where we found him, we put the call out because we knew right up front what we were looking for. We wanted the show to be full of sight gags, if you will,
Right.
so that a kid like your son in that age group would look at the screen and break up laughing, even if he didn't understand the jokes.
Right.
So the original concept was we would find the smallest human being in the world and hire him to be the count, and the largest human being in the world and hire him to be Igor. And then we paint them both green, put a costume on them, and a sight gag. All of a sudden, it's funny. Regardless of what they say or what they do, it's funny just to look at a little guy like that
Well,
and
that's
a
what they
great
did with
big guy.
Stan and Laurel and Hardy when
Yep,
they, as soon as
exactly
the
right.
director saw them, he just said, "Who are these two guys?" There are one's Laurel, one's Hardy, I guess, and they said these guys look hilarious together.
It's the one plays off the other, and it was also like you also mentioned the Three Stooges. So you had two of them with long hair and one was bald. So it's funny.
And they call him Curly, and my son never got that. He's like, "Dad, why do they call him Curly? He's got no hair." And I
You
go,
expect
"Son,
too much from an 8-year-old.
it's a joke." Like I argue with him. I'm like, "It's a joke." It's
Yeah.
Curly. He's got no hair. It's gone. He didn't get it, and it was like, he was like, I go, "It's kind of funny because he's bald, and they call him Curly." And he's
You
like,
know, you
"Oh," he's
you
like, "Oh."
definitely set the bar too high, and you got to understand that he has a dad who was a professional, successful professional stand-up
Oh,
comedian,
thank you.
and
That means
and
a lot. Who's his dad? I would love to meet him and just say, "Could I have some of your money and success?" Because that would mean a lot to me.
have you got a mirror in that room that you're in?
No, I have a. Do I
Go
have a
put me
mirror?
on
I have a
hold. Go
bowl.
look in the
I have
mirror.
my best friend is a bowl of M&Ms. I that's that's my mirror. A mirror? Are you kidding me? I'm surrounded by my clocks. I said clocks, people. My son when I had the thing in the neck, instead of saying clocks, I would say the other thing. And a woman on the phone would hang up on me, and I would just be like, "What a rude person! You just hang up the phone on me." My son comes up and says, "Dad, why did you swear like that?" And I said, "What?" He said, "Why did you swear?" And I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "This is," and he whispered in my ear. And instead of clocks, I said the other thing. And he's like, "Oh," I didn't mean that, boy. Don't tell your mother, because she will kill me. So because I kept saying to the woman, "How big do you want the clock?" You
I
know.
did exactly the same thing. I have a very close couple that were friends of mine for years and years and years. And he was in the new home development business, which I was as well. And his wife was a speech therapist. And they came over once to our house, and I had just bought a new clock in Florida, Miami, I think it was. It was called a projector clock. So we had it attached over here, and about 15 feet away, it projected the time on the wall. And I was so enamored of it. And when they came over, I showed it to them. And I said, look, this is called a projector clock. And she said, what did you say? And I said, a projector clock. And she said, no, Mitch, you know what? You're going to embarrass yourself for the rest of your life. You have to learn how to do it, and it's easy. I can teach you in 10 seconds. When you say the word clock, you put your tongue on the top of your palate, on the top of your mouth.
Right.
And it'll go like this, clock. And then it'll come out correctly. And you'll never again have people look at you like, what did he say?
Oh, God, I wish you had told me that. I went to a Catholic school. I had the nuns beat the shit out of me, and I used to swear for a living. I mean, the penguins, we used to call them. Back then they had the strap when I was in school. My son does not, or my daughter doesn't understand. I'm like, you don't understand. When I was in school, they would literally give you the strap. I mean, I remember people would say to me, they would go, I know you from school, from before grade 8. And I'm like, and we're in the same class. And they said, no, you used to sit you were the kid in the window in the principal's office. And you would just constantly like make faces or pretend you were swimming or, I'm like, if I can't play ball with the boys, I'm going to, and then they'd run off and leave me, and I'd have to sit there and have the secretary yell at me, or she'd throw something at me, or she threw a book at me once. It hit the window and nearly broke. Anyways, it was a wonderful day, and my dad never really hit me. It was always kind of like my dad he always knew. He said, he's not dumb, he's just an idiot. There's nothing you can do. You can't fix that. You cannot. There's nothing you could. He knew that, because I used to worry that my dad, he's 75 now, and to this day terrifies me. He could really. He works, 12 hours a day, and he's a monster of a. When I mean monster, he's 5'7", but he's physically a strong man,
Right.
and I would be terrified if he hit me, and he never really did.
You know what? He worked it out so he didn't have to. He sent you to a Catholic school.
Yeah,
he figured, let the nuns take care of it.
They called him at work, and they were like, he's here again. This is the third day in a row, and he's like, can you please beat him up for me? No joke, because the principal's like, just going, really? You want us to hit him again? We've hit him 3 days in a row, and anyways, my dad's like, I don't have time. I'm exhausted. I can't come to the school. So if you want, beat him up, and then when he gets home, I'll hit him too. And then I just, I was like, it took me, I think, 6 hours to get home that night. My brother kept saying, let's go. We had to go through Black Creek and everything. And he was just like, come on, let's go. We used to go through Fabio's Cafe. You ever remember Fabio's Cafe on Jane Street?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there used to be an arcade in there. I used to go in there and play the arcades. When the arcades, there was such a thing as that's where you met women, where you met girls. You met them at the arcades, because that's where the cool guys would hang out. So
I remember the arcade. Do you remember the arcade on Yonge Street, just north of Dundas?
That was an area where back then it was kind of like everybody had kind of like a gang thing.
Yeah.
So you kind of had to watch where you were going. So if we did go down to that area, I would go with at least 8 guys. Really, honestly, we did. We would go with about 8 of us, and we would all watch each other. I grew up with, where I grew up with half Italian and half Newfoundlanders, and it was this was a weird thing. I'll never forget this. Real quick, I know that you You have tons of old vending machines, but I was the only guy, and I didn't know I was stealing, but I always thought I was being a good person because people would walk in and out of the building, and I was the only guy that knew how to put my hand up through this machine and get a Coke. And then anybody that would walk through, yeah, I'd throw them a Coke. They would, and thank you, young man. And I would think I'm a great guy. I'm going to heaven. Um, so I would give everybody a Coke, and I remember sitting with Bill Logie, me and him, Fred Logie, who never said a word. He was about 9 years old. I'm sorry, I was about 9, and Fred was about 7. Fred did not say a word. Sitting down, and all of a sudden these four black guys start walking towards, and there were two, like the glass door, then you would press that big buzzer thing, and then
Yeah.
another big giant glass door.
Like
Well,
an airlock.
yes. Well, yeah, yeah. So what the guys did is they went through the first set of doors, and then what happened is the one black guy went through the huge pane of glass, like walked right through the huge pane of glass, and the other three looked at him like, "What the hell did you just do?" And I've never seen anything like that. And Fred still was speechless. He was still just drinking his Coca-Cola. And the superintendent was this giant newfie. He comes running down with this other man and starts talking to these guys. And then all I hear him say, he takes the guy's name and information from his wallet, and he had to pay for the glass, and the guy says, the big newfie superintendent says, that guy was so coked up, and walks away. And I remember sitting there with Fred Logie, and just saying to him, Fred, we got to get off this shit. I mean, it's just going to destroy us. So the next, we started drinking cream soda. So now I honestly, I drink cream soda. And that is a true story. It was, anyways.
You know what? I'm sure that you're sitting down now in front of the mic.
Yes.
But I can picture you walking back and forth, pacing on a stage with a hand mic.
With tears.
Because it sounds like you're doing a stand-up.
No, I
know
sure
you're
you.
You're telling the true story of your life. I understand, but I'm just telling you what it sounds like. I feel like I'm in a
sorry.
comedy club.
We should. All right. You gotta tell me to shut up, Mitch. Okay.
I'm enjoying the whole thing.
Please don't enjoy this. You gotta. People are listening to this and they're going, We're here for Mitch. We really don't give a crap about this Vito guy.
Okay.
So let's get back to you, please.
Okay.
So all right. So how did it turn out with, like, when people go with Billy Van? How was Billy Van? Because he said the coolest thing. I remember seeing him, and it was an old interview. And if you guys get a chance, try and go to, I believe it's hippie.com. And you could see old interviews. They also have Mitch on that page. Mitch has got everything from you can do puzzles. What would Griselda bang her head on, and what was. They'd have a list, what was the, Frankensteinish monster's real name? We all know is Brucey. So,
yeah.
Go and check that out. And there's so much, there was an
Oh, you're talking about my website?
Yes.
I didn't realize. It's superhippie.com.
Yeah, superhippie.com. I'm sorry. I'll put up a link to it. I'll put a link to it. And then people go on, and I saw this wonderful interview of Billy Van. And, the guy said to him, what wouldn't you do for a gag? And he said, you got to remember, this is like early 70s, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He goes and says this. He says, I would never play on the gay thing.
That's exactly how he said it, too.
Yeah, I just wouldn't do that. And I always admired him for that. Because I remember growing up, in the 70s and 80s, and it was like, the jokes were atrocious, and they were really bad, and when it was, and Billy Van, just to say that, I just thought, what? Now that is a comedian. That is somebody that understands that. That's a cheap gag. He
was a menschy guy, and he would never go for the low-hanging fruit,
exactly.
if you'll pardon the pun.
No, that's true. That is totally true. It's because, you know what happens? I used to do a fat joke, Okay, a really stupid fat joke. And there
Right.
was a girl that was sitting in the front of the audience, and she was about 300 pounds. And I said the joke, everyone laughed, and she kind of laughed. And Mitch, I felt like horse shit. I said to myself, I am never, ever doing that bit again. Ever. I don't care. It was funny bit, great. I'll never do that bit again. It's a cheap, stupid laugh, and it's hurtful. And
Good for you.
yeah, well, it's not good for me. It's just good for you, your person.
Yeah. Yeah.
To what are you gonna do? You're gonna make fun of other people? To me, I like Don Rickles, but Rickles was kind of, one of a kind. But I never liked the comic that would pick on people. I didn't understand that. I never
Right.
understood why you would go to a show and you pay money and people are like, "Oh, I want you to pick on us tonight." And, I'm like, I don't do that. I don't. You trust me. If you make me angry, I'll pick on you and I'll make you cry. But I really cannot stand, stupid, easy jokes that are hurtful. So, and
Rickles
that's
was such a
something.
talented guy.
I'm a genius, Mitch. I'm a genius. You should hear what my wife calls me. Um, what was I going to tell you about Griselda? This is how you're saying I'm a brilliant guy. I didn't know till somebody pointed out, and this is how much of an idiot I was. I'm like Griselda. Whenever Griselda would come on, the first couple of times would kind of freak me out. Like she
Why?
just something about, and then she would make me laugh hysterically when she would do the side. Am I gorgeous or what? And then she would go sideways.
Eat your heart out, Anne
Eat your
Margaret.
yes. Yes, and I don't know who Anne Margaret was, and it was just like I just go, oh God, that's and then Griselda became my favorite character, you
Oh,
know.
isn't that good?
Yeah,
That's nice
and
to hear.
what I never, and then finally somebody in school said, "Do you not know that the Count and Griselda and Pet Vet and the other guy, it's the same guy?" And I'm like,
Well,
"No, you're an idiot." I go, "That's totally different people." Eh,
you were right, Vito. You weren't supposed to know that. We spent a fortune on those prosthetic pieces, and Billy and I had to fly to New York to get the mold made and everything. We did it specifically so people would think that there were 13 different characters
Oh
on that
wow.
show.
Well, it
That was the
worked.
plan.
It worked.
So yeah, so that's good. You did what you were supposed to do. You thought
Good.
you believed what you saw.
Good, because it was Billy Logie who was he was 15 or 16 years old at the time when he told me. And he said, "Don't you?" He goes, "Okay." He goes, "Do me a favor." He goes, at the end, he goes, "You ever notice it says Billy Van, Billy Van, Billy Van?" I'm like, "Billy, I can't read." And he goes, "No." He goes, "Just look at the TV and it'll say Billy Van, Billy Van, Billy Van, Billy Van." And I go, I don't understand what that means. And it says starring, you idiot, starring Billy Van, Billy Van, Billy Van, Billy Van. And I look at it and I go, oh, and I go, so that means, and he goes, yes, that means that Billy Van, they have to give him a credit. So they give a credit to the character. These are all characters that he's playing. And it never took it away from me. It never took the magic away from me. It just made me love him more. It just,
Yeah.
it was one of those things where I just said, when I grow up, I'm going to find this man and just tell him how. I mean, I would hear these stories. I mean, he passed away in 2003.
Yeah.
That was a heartbreak and a half. But I remember a man said, he goes, I saw the Count. I saw Billy Van. I was actually coming out of my doctor's office, and he said, "Hey, you're Billy Van." And he says, Billy Van goes, "You could always count on the Count," you know, without skipping a beat, without
Yeah.
And he said it made his month. He was like just ecstatic about
Well, that's so
just
nice to hear.
yeah, and it's just I wish it was me. That's what pissed me off, you know. So yeah, to have Billy Van, I mean, to work with him. You said about the prosthetics. I heard that the prosthetics at first they would take too long to get off. So we had, and you said you had to go get other ones made, so it was easier.
Well, we started off with masks. We thought we would try that because that was obviously dramatically less expensive. And that didn't work out too well. We found that out very quickly that A, it looked like shit. It didn't look good. And B, your face can't really articulate when you have a mask on. And after 3 or 4 hours of shooting, his lip was hurting because it was cutting. The mask was cutting into him. So we abandoned that, and then we thought we would just do it with makeup. And albeit we had a good makeup lady, it just wasn't cutting it. We wanted this to look like a first-class show because, albeit it wasn't a lot of money in the scale versus Hollywood, but the show was like a $500,000 show. That's a lot of dough back in 1970.
Oh yeah.
So we wanted it to look big time, and it just wasn't working. And that's when we found a road to success, and the road to success was a guy named Bob Layden, who was a real famous, big-time makeup guy in New York, and he especially was making prosthetic pieces. So we decided Billy had to go to New York, and one of us had to go with him as to escort him. And my brother was the older brother. He still is. He's 7 years older than I am. So we drew straws like we always did to see who was going to do what. And I lost. Of course, I always lost because I was the younger brother.
Well, he's 7 years old. He cheated. That's my brother. I do that to him all the time. And he finally caught on. He caught on.
So we decided I had to fly to New York with Billy. And albeit I've flown extensively, like I've done 3 cross-country tours with Doug Henning, and I've got my share of mileage up there, but it's not my favorite form of travel. But I acquiesced, and I got on the plane with Billy. We flew to New York. When we arrived there, I thought there would be a guy with a chauffeur's hat and a sign saying Markowitz or Mitch or Frightenstein or something, who would drive us to Rockefeller Center, because Bob Layden was working out of 30 Rock, the NBC headquarters. And nobody showed up. And then I finally found out that the plan had changed a little bit. And Riff, my brother, had arranged for us to get from the airport to 30 Rock in a helicopter.
Oh, wow.
So if you're afraid of an airplane, you got to believe me, you're going to be terrified of a helicopter.
Oh,
anyway,
your brother loved you.
But I had no choice. I mean, we were there. We'd spent the money and everything, so we got in a helicopter. We're halfway from the airport to downtown to Manhattan. And all the time we're in the air, I'm thinking about this, because I'd been to New York before. And I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking, 30 Rockefeller Center is right in the heart of Manhattan. And I'm thinking, where the hell is a helicopter going to land in Times Square, like right in downtown Manhattan?
Right.
And then, of course, I came to the stark realization that there was only one answer here. This guy was going to land this fucking helicopter on the roof of 30 Rock.
No way.
And he somehow managed to hit the mark. We landed on the roof. Billy got out. I got out. And I had to go and change my pants. That's how bad it was. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Frightening.
And the whole time you're up there, you're thinking, why did I bring my outfit? What? There's no way I could fly out of this thing. I am ruined. Out of all the times I forgot the outfit, I leave it now. That is amazing. But I would feel like either a drug dealer or somebody very important if that was me. I would just to be in a helicopter like that, to land on a building. I think I would love that. And I am scared of heights. But
I was terrified. I wasn't thrilled at all. And it was my second time in the helicopter. The first time we had done, my brother had another kids' TV show before Frightenstein in the early 60s. It was called The Randy Dandy Show. And for a period, he was the star of the show. He played Randy Dandy. And his sidekick on the show was a clown called Silly Willie. And at one point, the original Silly Willie decided he didn't want to be a clown anymore. So I was enlisted to be Silly Willie. And we had a gig in Halifax, just outside of Halifax, in an Air Force base. and the Air Force picked us up in Toronto in one of those Air Force kind of airplanes. They don't have seats; they have these fold-down things you sit on,
Right.
like fold-down stretchers. And there were just the two of us on the airplane. They picked us up in Toronto. They flew us to the Goodwood, I think it was called Goodwood Air Force Base. We got there, and the plan was we were going to do a show in the afternoon, and then we were invited to their gala in the evening. So we did the show, and at one point, the Randy Dandy show ended every day, every episode, with Silly Willie giving Randy Dandy a pie in the mushroomy, hit him in the face with a whipped cream pie.
Right.
So I was told at the last minute by that same older brother that here's where we're going to do this. See that helicopter over there? You're going to go up in the helicopter, then they're going to bring you down to about 6 feet off the ground, and then you're going to hit me. I'm going to be on the ground, and then you're going to hit me in the face with the pie.
Right.
And I said, oh, my God. Because here I go into a helicopter. And then I come down to 6 feet off the ground. Now, the good news was I figured if, God forbid, something happens, I could survive falling out of a helicopter at 6 feet, but not with a 3,000-pound helicopter falling on top of me.
Right, right.
Anyway, I survived that one, and then this next surprise in New York, and that was my history with helicopters.
Oh wow! I mean, that just I've never been on a helicopter. I tell people I was a NAM, and they're like, "Well, how old are you?" And I'm like, how old do you think I am? And they're like, "You're not old enough to be a NAM," you know. And I'm like, "Damn it," you know. I want a good war story, you know, where I survived and I was in a helicopter troop. So,
well, according to you, you have a good war story. You grew up in Jane and Lawrence, and you
Jane
survived.
and Lawrence. I say that to guys and that were from that area, and they're like, "He's a survivor." Look, it's a survivor. For the midget count, his real name, what was his name was
now,
Alan.
wait a minute. I got to correct you
Big
here,
guy.
Vito.
Sorry, big guy.
I got to correct you. If you were back in 1970, you could refer to him as that.
Yes,
but
yes.
these days,
yes.
the only politically correct way, and of course you want to be politically correct, you're on the air.
Yes, you say vertically challenged.
Is refer to him as a little person.
A little, yes. Which would annoy me. That would bother me if I was a midget. I mean, a little person. It would bother me. Because I'd be like, listen to me. I'm not a little person. Okay, I'm a big person, so don't call me little. You know, I mean that would bother me. I met a little person, and I said, "Do you prefer midget or little person?" He looks at me, and goes, "Dwarf, you moron." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, no." But he's like, "I honestly prefer midget." He goes, "Because I just don't like." Little person sounds like what you call a little kid. You know, when I was little,
that's true.
You know, when I was small, they would say, "Hey, look, it's a little person," and I just thought, nah, I never liked that word. And I guess in this age of politically correctness, where, you know, we live in a time where, you know, the bully thing I was telling you earlier. You could bully the crap out of a kid, and people will say the most vicious things on social media.
Yeah.
And now, and these days, you know, a guy is a girl. He could be a girl or a guy, or you know, you don't know what to. You know, politically correct. It's like you can't say midget. You have to say little person. Yeah.
You can't do anything when you're sitting in a bully pulpit like you are with your microphone. You can't besmirch a neighborhood. You can't talk about little people and refer to them as midgets or dwarves.
Yeah. Because they will with 7 of them will come at you. I've taken on 5. I could take 5 of them on, but 7, that's my limit, and they know that. They say we need the bigger one. You know. And the guy's and the man's name, and he passed away at such a young age. He was 32.
Who, ours? You mean our guy?
Yes, big guy.
His name was
Alan.
His name was Guy Big.
Guy Big. I'm sorry, Guy Big.
That was his stage name.
Guy Big.
Yeah, and his real name was Alan Hoffman.
I always thought that was his porn name, Guy Big. and he would stroll into the scene wearing a, it was, why do they call him Guy Big? And then he would take off his robe and everybody would go, oh, I see, it's Guy Big. So Alan Herbert Hoffman, he was known as the Little Person Count.
Yep.
He also starred in King of Kensington, which is really weird because um, I collect like you, and nowhere near like you, but I collect Austin Powers and memorabilia, and Mike Myers says he got the idea for Little Count from the show from Hilarious House of
Yep. He,
Frightenstein.
he he grew up watching our show. As a matter of fact, when he was given the key to the city by the mayor, he was kind enough, and he's a really good guy. I mean, he didn't have to do this, but he told the mayor and the assembled audience that when he was a kid, he'd rush home after school. We were on 3:30 to 4:30 at that point on
Yes.
KHH. He'd run home after school. His mom would give him a plate of cookies and a glass of milk, and he'd sit there and watch Frightenstein for an hour. And then when he grew up and got rich and famous and did his Austin Powers movies, he introduced the world to the mini me and the maxi me, and he told the mayor that he got that idea from watching our show in the mini
Right,
town.
and you should
And,
sue him. You should get a
yeah,
lawyer and sue him for that. Because I mean, you should. Yeah, I would be furious about that. I really would. And then, what was the other?
he
There
was
was.
kind enough to mention us in his book. He came up with a book in October called My Canada, and he had a picture of Billy in there as the count,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
credited us with inspiring him.
Well, yeah. That's gotta. Well, you've inspired a lot of. I think millions of people all over the world. The show was just not in Canada. It was syndicated. I remember being in Buffalo. I told you where I was scared to use the bathroom because the guy never fixed the toilet. It was at a 45-degree angle, so you'd sit on this toilet, and I remember listening to the intro and just going, I can't believe my life sucks, da 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 da, and then just there, no joke, this toilet was at a 45-degree angle. So, but the show would, and the only joy I had in Buffalo was watching the show, you know. Uh,
We had a lot of fans in Buffalo. I just did a show there a couple of months ago in Buffalo called the para horror show, and it was a combination of paranormal and horror stuff.
Paranormal, yeah, yeah. The Do you ever have people stop you in the street or just um just
Um, no, because
yeah, you were in
I'm only
costume.
recognizable in context. Like if I was walking down the street wearing a skin tight Superman costume and a big blonde afro wig with a red headband, I'd have a chance. But the only way I get recognized really is because I was in costume. Is at a show when I'm at the Comic Con or a festival or something, because then I have a big Frightenstein poster behind me or beside me, and then people walk by, they see the poster, and the response is always verbatim, exactly the same. The response is always, "Oh my God, I grew up watching that show," and then they look over that and they look over to me, and there's obviously a connection, and then it goes from there. And then of course once I show them a poster and they see the super hippie
Well, I
character, the
love how
dime drops.
you actually take your time with people and talk to them, and actually it was really a warm thing to see where you're not rushing anybody, you're not pushing them away, you're engaged with the person. I remember you were talking to me about what I do, and I just thought, who gives a shit about what I do? I want to know what you do. But you were
I
like,
give a shit about it.
well, that was very nice of you, but it was just like that. Like most people are like, just move on. Did I tell you what happened at that show? That I had Shatner walk right by me, behind me as I was getting a coffee, and my English friend, of course, who's the politest guy from England. He couldn't. If it was a buddy from Jane and Lawrence, he would punch me in the back of the head, which I wish he did. But Shatner walked right by me a couple of times, and he kept poking me, going, "Vito, Vito, old boy, Vito." And I kept thinking, what, Tony? I'm trying to get a coffee, and this guy, I told him I don't like cream. I want milk. I could only drink coffee with milk, not with cream. I'm not, like cream. I'm not a cream, you know. Anyways, so we argue. I paid $15 for this thing. I want milk, you know. So
Oh, you were dealing with my buddy Brad at that Deadly Grounds.
I just wanted a coffee, and he's like, oh, we don't have milk. And I'm like, you got milk. And he's like, we don't got milk. And I'm like, you got milk. So instead of arguing with him, I should have listened to Tony, where he said, Shatner walked twice right behind you within inches. He literally bumped into you. And I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me? He's like, well, I didn't want to yell at you. You were busy, arguing with the coffee guy. So I go, next time, strangle me. I don't care. Like, just punch, shoot me in the leg. I don't care. But then I thought, you know what would I do? Like, turn around, Shatner, hi Shatner. He would just go, yeah, okay, hi, and just walk away. And it's done.
You know what, Vito? He's an incredible guy. I was standing there. I knew his handler from Fan Expo. We both worked Fan Expo, and he called me over and said, if you want to talk to William. So I was standing there talking to him for, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes or something. And I reminded him that he had appeared on one of my brother's other shows, a thing called Party Game on CHH, a charade show.
Yes,
The Party Game.
Yes, Billy Van was on that, and he used to be the funniest. Yeah, I remember that. I remember he had everybody rowing. Do you ever remember that episode where he had everybody rowing, like they were at Ben-Hur, and he was with a whip, and he had everybody rowing, and it was like the funniest thing as a kid, just going. Anyways, go on.
It was
sorry.
him and Captain Jack Duffy and Dinah Christie.
Yes.
So anyway, Bill Shatner was guested on the show a number of times, because back then the $300 guest fee meant something to him. Now that's that's chicken feed. But so I was standing there talking to him for 10 minutes. Meantime, there was 200 to 300 people waiting in line for his autograph, and they kept coming up to him. He would look at them, sign the autograph while he's talking to me. I was about a foot and a half over to the right. It was just incredible that he could carry on. He could do two things at once like that. Carry on a full-scale conversation with me while he's looking at them and signing their autographs for them.
But did he acknowledge them?
No.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. He would acknowledge you. Do you think he'd give two shits about me? I'd be like, hi, Bill. And he'd go, my name's Shatner, young man. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And he'd go, well, you looking at anything? And I, no, nothing. And just you're lucky in that sense. So I was just annoyed that anyways, Tony just on the drive home. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say I love engaging, to use your choice of words, and it was a good one. I love engaging and talking to the fans because I find out so much from them. Like I ask everybody, where did you watch our show? Where did you grow up? And I get the strangest answers. I had a gal a couple of years ago at Fan Expo, and I asked her, and she looked like she was, in her 30s, like not real young. Asked her where she watched. She said, well, I grew up watching it with my parents. That's two generations. And I said, what city were you in? And she said, we were in Norway. No, I'm sorry. We were in Madrid, in Spain.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, like I didn't even know our show ran in Spain.
Yeah, it also ran in Norway.
I had a guy. I did a big end of season car show, and there must have been 1,200 fancy hot rods and sports cars and stuff there. This guy walks up to me, rolls up his sleeve, and he shows me a beautiful tattoo of Igor's head on his arm. And I said, oh
wow.
my God, that's terrific. I said, oh wow, like same as you. And I said, where did you watch our show? And he said, I watched it as recently as a year ago in Norway. I always get something out of the conversation when I talk to people.
Yeah, that's what just, I don't know, it puts me in a weird, I'll watch the show, and then I'll see stuff like, when Millie Van passed away and how he aged, he looks totally different. He, 1971 till 2003. He was in a hockey movie, and you'd watch him, and I remember just going, oh God, I hate time. Time is so cruel. I had
the same situation. I did I forget what city I was in. I was at a Comic-Con somewhere, and might have been Niagara Falls. It was years ago. No, it wasn't. I think it was Toronto. Anyway, regardless of where it was, the promoters took me over to introduce me to Martin Landau, who was one of the celebrities signing there. And I went behind the table, and I'm standing next to him, and I'm chatting with him. But I almost couldn't look because I remember, as a matter of fact, I have a picture right behind me in my office here that he signed for me. I remember Martin Landau when he did Mission Impossible. It was my favorite TV show. And I loved him in that show.
Yeah.
And then I see him and he was probably, I don't know, in his 30s, maybe 40 at that time. And then I see him at this show, and he's like 86, and it just
Very
he didn't
frail.
look exactly the same.
Yeah. And it just.
Oh, but speaking of frail, listen to this. I said, what are you going to do after this? Like, where do you go from Toronto? And I thought he was going to say, well, I go back to the home, or I'm just going to relax on my ranch or something. And he said, well, I've got one film I start shooting in 2 months. I've got another one that's in pre-production that'll be ready in about 6 months. And then I've got another one I've got starting in about 8 or 9. I had 3 films in front of him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd be like, I just go, Lando, I don't think you're gonna make at least one of them. Can you at least throw me one? Could I have one? And then I don't care. Like, I know what an idiot thing to say, but that's what you're dealing with. So
were you a fan of Mission Impossible, by the way?
Yes, I was. I also the show also, as big as Johnny Carson was in some markets. Hilarious House of Frightenstein was higher ratings, had higher ratings than Carson.
Yeah. Now there was a reason for that. In all fairness, I have to explain that. When the show was syndicated in the U.S., it was a company called Westinghouse that was the syndicator, and they sold it to KTLA in Los Angeles, which is the biggest TV station in the state in California. So they bought it, and when they got their first segment of it, they took the suits, the executives from the station, into a screening room, and they're all sitting there and watching an hour episode. And afterwards, they look at each other and say, what the hell are we going to do with this thing? I mean, we bought it as a kids show. It's clearly not a kids show. Like, the humor's way above kids.
Right.
And they didn't understand. The thinking was the kids will get a laugh out of the way it looks. The adults and the teens and the stoners and everybody will get a laugh out of the humor,
right.
The actual jokes.
Right.
So anyway, in their wisdom, they decided they were going to run us from 11:30 to 12:30 at night, opposite the king of late-night television, Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. What they hadn't thought about was that there was back then in 1971, 72, and there still is, more colleges and universities in the state of California than in any other state in the Union. And there are millions, there was at least 1,000,001 university and college students in California at that time. So what would happen was these college kids, and by the way, if you remember Johnny Carson, and maybe half your audience or more won't remember him, but he was a real sort of tight-ass conservative guy from the Midwest. When Tiny Tim came on his show, he shook. He was so uptight at the look of this guy. So what would happen was, you can feel that vibe. You can feel when you're looking at a conservative kind of guy. So the college kids would all start to get high at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
Sure.
By 11:30, they were all stoned out of their mind, and they would turn on Frightenstein and get off on it. They loved the Wolfman, and they loved Griselda, and they just loved those shows.
Do you remember they used to play the tunes? They would play, like, now these days everything's copywritten, and to do the tune for this show, I had a band do it. I wanted something cool. You cannot pick and just throw a tune on. You had to have it copywritten.
You know what? It depends where you are. When we came out on, that law was in place for a long, long time. When our show came out in Hamilton on CHCH, nobody cared, nobody watched, nobody even knows Hamilton existed at that time.
Right. When
the show was syndicated next across Canada, still nobody cared. The first day it aired in the U.S., we got lawyers on top of us in about 3 hours.
Sure, Pete Townsend's like, what?
It's a very litigious country.
Yeah, yes. Oh God, they'll sue you for, God, I should have grown up there.
Yeah,
I
and
could.
and they had lots of money to spend on legals because there was no shortage of money when you're the Rolling Stones or Sly or whoever else.
Yeah, but
And
wouldn't you get
clearly, as
off
you
on it?
said,
I mean, as a, I mean, if God, I mean, how much money? I always say this. I go, how much money? If you're the Rolling Stones, I could give two shits if you use my music, unless it's like
yeah,
for a commercial for on television, like
yeah,
you're selling a product on top of it. But if
yeah.
you're using it and it's for a show like that, I would get a kick out of it. You know, I would just sit there and go, "Who get? How many more Ferraris do I need?" I mean, honestly, like I mean, do I care? I mean, what are we gonna get out of this deal? You know, so
Well, you have a point.
I don't get that. I really don't. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what they get. Sly was looking for 200 grand to use his
Well, you should
song.
have told Sly to go. I should have told him. He should have said, "You want to take a trip and take him down to Jane and Lawrence, and drop him off, and just say, Sly, wait here for about 5 minutes. I'll be right back. Just give me a sec, okay, pal? I'm just gonna get some cigarettes." And
You
trust me,
know, I
that
would,
that would go
I
away.
would say you're a funny guy, Vito. But then you would look at me and say, "I'm a funny guy." Wait, I make you laugh?
I make you
I make
laugh.
it. Look,
I
I'm a
make you
funny
laugh.
guy. Like, ha ha.
I do that bit, and then I always end up getting the shit knocked out of me. That's funny. So this is what I heard too. I heard that there was an animated cartoon version that it never got to air. Like, did they
Yeah,
make it?
we made two. We finished 3 episodes, and we put a lot of effort into it. I spent hours and hours and hours and hours in the studio looking for the right special effects. So when there's a boing or a this or a that or whatever, like you want it to all sound great.
Sure.
And a friend of ours, a guy named Al Guest, was in the animation business, and he did all the animation. We got about 3 episodes in, and which isn't enough to air anywhere. I mean, nobody wants 3 episodes. We got 3 episodes in, and Al, his company went bankrupt. At the same time as doing us, he
Oh,
was producing his own series. It was called Rocket Robin Hood,
oh yeah.
and it was a bit of a hit itself, but he ended up spending a lot more than he had thought he was going to on his series, and it put him into bankruptcy. So ours never got finished, and we just abandoned the idea and walked away from it.
But is there anything left of it?
No.
Oh,
Oh
that
well, no, I
sucks.
shouldn't say that. I have, I don't know, maybe a dozen and a half or 2 dozen of the cells. The animation
Yes,
cells.
yes.
But no, there's nothing left of the footage. Al and his wife were here in Canada. They live in California now, but they were here a couple of months ago, and we had them over for brunch. And they were saying, they still have some stuff, some old stuff put away in storage somewhere in Florida or something. So
I hope
there
you
is some
find it.
very remote possibility they might have something. But at the best, I think they thought all they would have left would be some cells.
Oh, yeah.
And I
Well,
already have those.
yeah. That would have been awesome to see.
It would. Yeah, you're right.
And because I
And,
remember Rocket Robin Hood, I used to watch that too. But what used to always bother me was it took 45 minutes to tell the story. They would just, and the sheriff, and then all of a sudden, dun, 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 they would start the song all over again. You'd be going, yes, we got it, Rocket Robin Hood. And
yeah.
then back to the sheriff, and then the sheriff would do something, and then back to Rocket Robin
It was
Hood.
a popular show in its day.
Yeah, it truly was. If anyone, if you look it up, check it out. You'll sit there and go, how is this popular? But it really was. I mean, compared to what, do you notice this? Like, I try and get my son to watch. People will say this to me. Go, why? I remember a child growing up in Toronto. The biggest show for a kid growing up was the Polka Dot Door. Okay?
Yep.
And Mr. Dress Up, Mr. Rogers, all these shows.
Razzle Dazzle.
Yes, all those shows. Okay, these days they would never last. The only one that has ever come close, and I think it was I had to bring my kids to go see them at the Labatt Center, was they're from Australia, the Doodle Bops, not the boot, no, the anyways, they wore different shirts. I forget the names.
Oh, the Power Rangers.
No, there was a bunch of guys. Hi, Gary, and they're from Australia. Oh, what are you doing? And just
Oh,
they,
yeah, yeah, I know who you mean.
those guys. And I would just say one of them was always sleeping, and um, what was their name? The Doodle, not the Doodle.
You know what? Fraggle Rock.
No, that was
No.
my sister's favorite show growing up, Fraggle Rock. The
Oh,
it was just a couple of years ago. It's still on the air. It's called oh God, I can't believe I forgot their
I,
stupid name. Anyways, who
I don't.
cares? Anyways, they made a fortune. So I tell my son, and I realize if I sit there and I go, I want you to watch Mr. Dress Up because I think it's a nice show, and Ernie Coombs, and
Yeah,
he'll
yeah,
sit there and he watches it for less than 3 minutes and says, Dad, this is boring, and it
yeah.
just
Well,
bugs
kids
me.
have changed. I mean, things have changed since you grew up.
Oh, has it ever? I mean, when you were saying the phone, when you were talking about you had to take a helicopter, and you didn't. There was no such thing as a cell phone. You
No, are
could
you
you couldn't
kidding?
call up your brother and yell at him, going, "What the hell did you do?" You know,
No, no.
there were these giant things, and you have a collection. I understand of everything from old vending machines to phones. But that's
Yeah,
what you couldn't keep one of those phones in your pocket. The cord was 600 feet. You know, I, I I mean, there were these things. You barely ever see them anymore. But I guess by law you have to have a couple out, and those giant telephone booths, and
yeah.
that's what we used. If you had to look somebody up, they had this phone book that was disgusting that you
That's
had to
true. Yeah,
pick up. You had to pick up and go through it and go, where is this idiot? And you go, okay, I'm dyslexic, so it would take forever to find the guy. And then you call him up, and it would the operator would come on and go, 10 cents more. And you'd go, really? And you throw 10 cents more, and you drop your change. And it was the floor was full of God knows what. And it was the dial. Your lips would touch the dial, and for the next 3 weeks, you look like you look like a carp from the Mississippi. You know, it's just disgusting. The good old days. But yeah, you have
I
you.
wish I didn't have this light on in my office now. I wish I had the lighting was dimmer, and there was somebody blowing smoke in the air. Because I sit here listening to you, I feel like I'm in a comedy club back in the days when people could smoke.
Oh God, I used to go up there, and what I hated was everybody would smoke. I would
Yeah,
smoke too, but the problem was it was so much smoke that it was purple. So when
yeah.
you were standing up there, my eyes at about the 45-minute mark, my eyes would start to water
Oh,
from
I
the
believe
smoke
it.
because I am allergic to smoke.
Yeah.
So my eyes would water, and I would constantly have a tissue, and I'd wipe it, and whatever. But my God, everybody smoked. And once they said that you weren't allowed to smoke inside the clubs anymore,
Right.
and we would smoke in the green room and get in trouble. But then after that, we'd be in the stairwell. We get kicked out of the stairwell, and I'm like, I'm back in high school. It's like, okay, now you got to go outside. Now you're freezing outside, and you're waiting for your set, and you're having a smoke, and you're freezing, and the whole point of smoking is you're supposed to enjoy the cancer. You're not supposed to you're not supposed to freeze and not enjoy not killing yourself. You know?
Yeah.
So that once they said you can't smoke anywhere near the building, the wife when she got pregnant, she's like, you're I'm not smoking, so you're not smoking. I'm like, I did for about 6 months, and she would kick me out of the house, and I'd be outside like an imbecile out of my own house smoking, going, you know what, I gotta quit this crap. I couldn't smoke in the car because we bought the car, and she's like, it smells like crap. And she's like, so you couldn't smoke in the car, you can't smoke in the clubs, you can't smoke anywhere but
Life's
outside.
a bitch.
Oh yeah, and then you die. You know, so and then no, you can smoke in the airport, but they put you in these little circles that parents walk by with their kids and go, "Mommy, look at that," and you're a freak of nature because you're in this circle where you're smoking. And they got rid of that, and it's just forget it. I just said forget it. I'll just die natural causes. 15 bullet shots to the head. I'll die the normal Italian way. So, what was I? Oh, about your collection. Just
Yeah,
I said an hour, but I'm sorry.
that's okay.
I wanted to ask you. Okay, before that, Doug Henning. Did you manage Doug Henning?
Not Doug Henning in general. Just that I road managed the tour we did 3 years in a row. We had a client. Actually, it was the government, the federal government. It was they were called the Footwear Bureau of Canada, and it was a bureau that part of the government that was set up to protect Canadian shoe manufacturers. So I forget how we got together with them, but they sought us out somehow, and we negotiated a deal where we would create a show and take it across Canada and work in. We worked in shopping centers, free shows. We set up a stage. We didn't, but the shopping center set up a stage, and I would travel the show across country, and I did every major city from Halifax to Vancouver with Doug, and we would fly the equipment, and Doug and me and the lady from the Footwear Bureau of Canada.
Now, was Doug the muscle man? Like when you needed the money for the gig, Doug, we need the money, go get it, and Doug would just go in there and just start.
No, on the contrary, Doug was poor at the time.
No, I couldn't think
He
of a more gentler man on the planet. I mean, he
That's right.
seemed like
That's
just a very gentle, kind, sweet person.
You've exactly got his number. And in order for him to pursue his education and continue to learn more and more and more about magic, which is what he always wanted to do, he got a grant, a Canada Council grant, and he took that money and went to Hollywood and met Guy Vernon and a bunch of the other big old time
Mm-hmm.
magicians, and then he came back, but he still wasn't making any money. I mean, he was still fell into the sort of starving artist category, which is what
Right.
everybody is if you're in Canada,
Right.
and so we got in touch with him and told him what our idea was, and we worked out a great deal with him. We told him that he would design some new, big, major illusions, and we would pay for them. And then at the end of the show, they reverted back to him. I mean, what are we going to do with a zigzag lady or the other illusions that we created? So he designed them, and from secret magic knowledge. He was a funny guy. He was a weird guy. He made everybody he came into contact with, including me, sign a secrecy agreement that we would never, ever disclose anything we knew about magic or
Good.
how it worked or anything.
No, good. No, I think that's awesome. I wish they
Oh,
did.
I do too.
I wish that's where wrestling went down the tubes. I think they should have had all the guys sign because once you tell everybody the tricks,
Yeah.
it's the show's over. That's why wrestling has just skydived to now. It's just people don't. It doesn't have that attraction anymore. Once you tell people your tricks and it's written, and yeah, as a kid, I mean, my dad would sit there. I go, Dad, I mean, honestly, I remember seeing a wrestler and he got hit 15 times. I said, Dad, like God, isn't he? Is that Uncle Louie? No, I'm like, how many times can that man? Because the next night he's fighting again, and my dad said, honestly, do you think that Vito, if you were to beat a man like that with punches like that, do you think that he could walk the next day? And
Yeah.
he never gave it away, but I kind of realized, okay, it's kind of, there is this
There's something going
secret.
on up there.
Yes, but yeah, I don't need to know it, and I don't need to know the trick to enjoy. Okay, and I think he did the right thing, and that was very cool. I wish they did that.
It's to the tune of a Neil Young. There's something happening there. What it is ain't exactly clear.
Right.
There's a secret, and if you're right 100%. As soon as you know the secret, it's blown.
Well, why would you go to a magician show? And my son asked me, we were watching The Secrets of Magic, which I didn't want him to see, but he's like, Dad, I want to see this. And I'm like, really? And then he's like, he sees it and he's like, oh, that's how they do it. And I'm like, I turned it off and I go, yeah, I try and change the subject because I don't want him to, I want him to think magic.
Yeah, that
There's,
show should be illegal.
yeah, yeah. Well, no, I want him to think, you want things to be magic, okay? I mean, you want things there's this thing inside you where you know that it's impossible to make an elephant disappear.
Yeah.
Johnny Carson made a lot of wives disappear. I mean, you never heard of it, but I mean, the you, money can do amazing things, but I don't want to know how it's done. I just want to sit back and watch and be
Yeah.
entertained.
No,
And that
you can just you can people would stand like we draw 200-300 people, sometimes a little more at each show, and you'd see them standing out there. I also emceed the show, by the way, because I forgot to mention, but the character that we created was called Shushu, Chou.
right.
Shushu the magic magician, and
I'm dyslexic, so that didn't make any sense to me at all.
well, he was a shoemaker,
I know,
supposedly.
no, I get it.
And people would stand in the audience with their mouths hanging open. When he'd do an illusion like the zigzag lady, where he would cut a woman in three,
Right.
and then put her back together.
Yes,
And
yes.
he'd do a levitation illusion.
Did he do
which,
the motorcycle one where he would all of a sudden he'd just disappear? He'd go up a ramp and then all of a sudden he would end up in this box and it would explode.
No. He did the big illusions. He did with the zigzag lady, the levitation, and he would do metamorphosis, where he would put a woman into a small box about 4 feet square, and then he would turn the box around 3 times and open it all up, and she was gone.
Yeah.
And then he'd close it all up, turn it around 3 more times, tap it with his magic wand, and she would come popping out of it.
Right. And you notice
people
none of them
loved
were all the girls. All the girls were all. I mean, I would hit on them all the time. I don't know how. I mean, I would just be. I mean, I remember there was something that your collection. You have an amazing, not only cigarette machine, match machine, and Pez dispensers, and you also own cars. You own a beautiful blue Bentley. A Toyota.
Do you have a camera planted here?
You have a Toyota FJ, a cruiser, and when the guy sold it to you, he said it's a chick magnet, and you said to him, where's the button to the chick magnet? Because I don't need it. I'm happily married for 25 years.
Oh my God.
I would go back and sue him and just go, this button of yours, where is it? I mean, I'm married, but I don't mind the chick magnet button.
Vito, this is eerie. I feel like you know me better than I know me. Like you've got a camera here.
No, it's called whenever I try and do an interview, I try and know as much as possible, and what I'll do is. You have to, Mitch, or else I don't want it to be the same thing where you're just gonna regurgitate things that you've said before. I just think that's not, who cares? I want it to be something where people will walk away and go, hey, did you hear this? I didn't know that about him. Where I didn't know he was a drug dealer, and so you own these beautiful cars. You also own a 1971 Citroen. You still have that?
I do.
Oh,
She's
God.
a beauty.
She is
I
a
love that
beauty.
car.
You know that the suspension on there's a special suspension on that vehicle.
Hydraulic.
Yes. But it's kind of, if you ever saw the commercial of that car, and I don't know if you get it, it's a French car, but and there are commercials for that you could see, and they show that that's a suspension is kind of like a bladder of a fish, just to kind of, yeah, it was pretty freaky to show that it could go over a bump and you're not supposed to feel anything.
You don't. It's like riding on air.
Yeah, and that was the whole thing. That, I mean, have you ever been in a Lada?
A Lada, no.
Good, because if you have fillings, it will. You're, I mean, there's a difference. When they say this is a Russian car, you go, God, I wonder why the Russians never made successful car for such a big country. Um, a lot of it's got a whole lot of shit in it. Horrible car,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the French did make this beautiful car. That Bentley that you got, I hate to tell people that. I don't want but you do have a beautiful Bentley. You must feel like when you're cruising around in a Bentley, that must be uh, uh, like you don't see. That's what to me. That's like a dream car. It's like one of
But
those
you're right.
where you feel like $1 million, and like to me, it's like the whole point of being in a car. I mean, I believe that there are several other cars that you've got. I mean, you have a beautiful Volvo. God, what else? There's that Cruiser, and there's a Toyota FJ that I said. Do you have a Brookland?
What? Brooklyn's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Bentley's. The model is called a Brooklyn.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was the Canadian called a Brooklyn. It was a Canadian
You're
built.
right.
That's what I thought.
No. The Bentley model is a Brooklyn's,
These
and this one in particular is an LWB. It's a long wheelbase, so it's like 4 inches longer than a traditional Bentley.
right,
It was really made for a driver to drive, and
right.
then the owner would be in the back seat. Maybe have extra those
Oh yeah.
4 inches of legroom.
Oh yeah. Of course. And
Yeah, she's a beauty. We call her Bertha, Big Bertha.
Big Bertha. That's what I call my wife. And then she just absolutely. I remember there was the Romeo brothers, and they were in the mafia for real. They were, and they took me to. I said, "You guys go hunting," and I was like 13 years old because they had a Brooklyn. They had a Brooklyn, and it freaked me right out. I didn't know, and my dad. I said he's gonna take me hunting, and my dad said, "Are you nuts?" I said, "You're not going hunting with him." I go, "Dad, come on, I want to go hunting." And the Romeos, and they had another guy, this big tall guy, and he was no joke. I think when we got in the woods, he must have thought he was back in Nam, because these guys pulled out. They shot at every anything that moved, and I did not move. Okay, they said, "What's wrong with you?" Like, and I was like, "Well, you're holding your gun over your shoulder, and I'm behind you." Okay, and he's like, because he's like, "Vito, if you're anywhere up my ass like that again." I mean, I was like up inside this man, and I'm like, because I'm worried that thing's gonna shoot me in the head. And he's
It
like,
sounds like a scene from Sopranos.
"Oh God, it was." And I was like, I'm worried you're gonna shoot me. And he's like, "I'm not gonna shoot you." And he cocks it, and he absolutely. You remember that part in Predator where they
Yeah,
think that there's the things out there, and they all start shooting. They
yeah.
start shooting the brush, and they had these. What is it?
And of
AK.
course, they were using a submachine gun.
They were using machine guns to hunt. And I mean, guys, what are we hunting? Water buffalo? I mean, they were shooting rabbits and pheasants, and I was the guy that had the sack that would carry all these dead animals. And
Oh
oh
no!
yeah, I hated it. I never went hunting again. I was like, this is the worst thing. I fell asleep under a tree, and the one guy thought it would be funny if he shot over my head. I
Oh
never
my
told my
God!
dad, or my dad would kill him. But the guy shot over my head, and I jumped up, and the guy said, "See what happens when you fall asleep on the job?" And I was like,
Were these teenagers or adults?
"Adults. These guys were in Vietnam. Like they were literally they
Oh
were like
Jesus!
they were like." He's like, "You wouldn't last 5 minutes in Vietnam." And under my breath, I'm like, "I would shoot this guy so hard in the head in the middle of the night. Like I would have an accident with this guy. Like it's just these guys were they would get so high, Mitch, and they would pass me a joint, and I was like, "No, I can't." And he's like, smoke it," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And the woods within 15 minutes were like, "Vito, run like the wind. Just go,
Man,
just go." So it was a horrible experience, but the guy, it was. I never went hunting again after that. It was like
I
never.
don't blame you.
No, I didn't like it at all. And I had every single dead animal. I had to carry the bag was heavy, and it was just full of these just anything these guys shot. Anyways, I had it in the bag. It was just disgusting. So,
That's wild. What a wild story, man.
yeah. It was a fun time, Mitch. I wish you were there. I mean, I wish anybody was there. Actually, I wish
What,
anybody.
other than you?
I wish somebody with a helicopter was there so I could get the fuck out of there. I mean, it was literally. I remember just thinking in my head, why didn't I listen to my dad instead of being the cool guy and saying, "No, Dad, everything will be fine." These guys
Yeah.
were just some of the scariest dudes on the planet, and you just thought, no, I thought I was scary. These guys are scary, And when I believe, when they're walking and the guy's talking about killing a guy, and I could hear him, but this is in Vietnam, and they were laughing about it, and I'm just thinking, Jesus Christ, like these guys are maniacs. They're literally maniacs.
And they were serious.
They were dead serious. They were talking about just
Don't,
battles.
don't say dead. Don't say
No,
dead
no,
serious.
they were very serious about what went on there and how they took care of when they went on patrol. And one night, something happened, and whatever. I don't want to get into how whatever, but it was disgusting. So
Wow.
let's get back to happy, good old me.
Okay.
So this people are gonna go. He's such an idiot. This should be about Mitch, and he's talking about being with a bunch of mafia guys in the woods shooting animals. What a moron!
You know
So
what? It's about listening to you and I relaxing in front of a fireplace and
sure,
and chatting.
sure.
It's
Yeah, I
eavesdropping.
wish I had the money for a fireplace, but oh God. No, I'll just picture that, Mitch. Just they do have the fire channel here, and if I had a TV, I would turn that on too. So the you got a great laugh. I'll give you that. That anybody that makes me laugh, it's somebody else's laugh that always gets me going. Um, so you've got a wonderful laugh. Don't ever lose that.
Well, thank
Um,
you.
anything that you also collect things from, like, I mean, you collect stuff from Mae West, Smokey Robinson, Cher, yeah, Jerry Lewis, just passed away a couple of months ago. Marilyn
Man, you
Monroe.
really did your homework.
Well, I would, which the Cher stuff. Do you ever, like, honestly, have that in the? I mean, I would keep it for, I would just ask the wife, "Go, can you put this on?" I mean, just for, like, and she would say no, and I would cry. And if you cry enough, they eventually cave in. So
You know, it's interesting how things go around and they come around. This, Billy was a regular. He was on every week on Sonny and Cher's show.
yes, he was. Yes, he
Yeah.
was. He was one of. They said he was. Should have been much bigger. And when I mean much bigger, I mean he should have been in, like, movies, Saturday Night Live. He could have killed all those guys on Saturday Night
Yeah.
Live. He was one of the most talented men. I mean, I remember he played one of his last roles was of a hockey trainer, and he was supposed to be an asshole. Okay, and he played that, and I remember looking at him thinking, when he plays a character. Yeah, when he does the any character on the show on Hilarious House of Frankenstein, he would he could look at you with this. You couldn't tell it was him, but if he wanted to, it was just something about his eyes that you could tell it was him. But um, any
No, he's
other
a great
role,
actor.
any other role he played, you would never know it was him.
Yeah.
If he played a tough guy, he was a tough guy. If he played a romantic, he was in a really nice dramatic movie where him and his wife are dancing at their daughter's wedding, and he was just wonderful. And I just thought this man could act like nobody else. He was like a chameleon. When they say Peter Sellers was a comedian, but the problem was Peter Sellers in real life was not really that nice of a guy, and you never heard a cross word about Billy Van. You never heard.
Nope, not from anybody.
Yeah,
No.
no, it was always like you always heard like wonderful stories. But with Peter Sellers, they were like, oh God, one night he did this or he did that. And I love the Pink Band. I love Peter Sellers. But to know that, he was such a not the nicest
Yeah,
guy on the planet, kind of, puts a damper on it. And
yeah,
anyway,
he had an edge to him.
yeah, there was, something
We
just
we were real lucky, when you think about it with Frightenstein, because there weren't that many people in the cast. I mean, obviously there was me, there was Fisker Rays, there was Igor, there was Billy, who played 13 different characters, Vincent Price. The puppeteer was Joe Torbe, guy we'd worked with before on the other kids show, and Professor Julius Sumner Miller, and they were all good guys.
yes.
So that's we got real lucky that way, because all you need is one jerk in the
Oh,
cast,
I know, and you hear that
and
on shows.
yeah, all the time, and it just sets everybody else off, gets everybody's nose out of joint and everything.
Well, yeah, when I did I did a ghost show, and I had one person that was really I couldn't stand.
I saw an episode of it. It was great. It was hysterical.
Thank you. And when I just had the person replace, and people are like, why? How can you do that? And I'm like, listen, I'm here to have fun. It's my show, and
Mm-hmm.
this person is just causing problems. I'm sick of problems. I don't want to come in here with problems.
Yeah, don't
Every
need it.
time, every time it's like, you look at this person, it makes you dislike them more and more. And I try my best, Mitch, to accommodate the person, no matter what. Okay, I'll do whatever it takes. But once you start acting like a jerk and start treating others unprofessionally, and
There's the door.
yeah, I can't deal with you. I
Yeah.
can't. I can't. I mean, if you're gonna, and for some reason they think they make it on a show that they're not replaceable. Trust me, anybody's replaceable. Billy Van wasn't, but neither was Igor. But shows like I remember the Prince of Bel French.
Fresh Prince of Bel Air.
Yes,
Yeah.
you know that they replaced the mother, right?
No, I didn't
Yeah,
know
they
that.
did. The first, he couldn't stand her, the mother, so he ended up in the next season. They thought, you can't get rid of the mother, and this woman thought they can't get rid of me. Well, guess what? You weren't as high up as you thought you were, and when the star of the show doesn't like you,
You're, you're out.
you're gone, and you're out of a job. And I'm like, why?
We talked before about other kid shows, and I mentioned Razzle Dazzle, and of course Alan Hamill was the star of that, and he has been married now for a million years to Suzanne Summers, and I mean everybody remembers that Three's Company
Yes.
show, and then all of a sudden Alan thought, well, Suzanne should be making more money than anybody else. Next thing you know, she's out, and
Yes.
there's a new blonde
New
taking over.
blonde. Yeah, new
Yeah.
blonde girl. And I mean, as a kid watching that show, I didn't care. As long as it was blonde, I did not care. I mean, I didn't like. I was not a big ABBA fan until I saw them, and then I thought, those two guys would go for a walk, and I'll just stare at the girls. I mean, I mean, oh God, that
My
blonde.
favorite girls. Would you remember Robert Palmer?
Yes, yes, yes,
I,
yes,
I love. He had a couple of real big hits. Remember, he had those five
yes.
gorgeous women behind him.
Addicted to Love.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Addicted to Love.
Yeah, where they would just dance behind you, and then you could see half a tit sometimes, through.
I loved that song, and I
Yeah,
thought he was so cool and such a handsome guy with that straight, hair. And of course, I was always stuck since I was a kid with a Jewfro, and and those beautiful women and their beautiful shiny hair and their
oh
skin tight
God.
black outfits.
Yeah, and I remember I was making out with this girl in her basement. Her parents were playing Yahtzee upstairs, and Robert Palmer came on, and that video came on, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was watching the girls, and she's like, "What are you like? Are you serious?" And can we just? This is an awesome.
Time out.
Yeah, and I'm like, just let me watch this. She's like, she just walked away. Like she's like, she got all angry and left. And I ended up watching the video, and I'm like, okay, can you come back now? It's over. I mean, and now I could memorize those girls. Can you get back here? You know, I mean, Mitch, I'm going to go to hell, and I'm going to try and take as many with me, so I really could care less anymore. I wanted to ask you this about your brother Riff.
Go ahead.
Now, if this bugs you, I'm sorry, okay?
Go
But
ahead.
uh, did, he ran away from home when he was 15, and he worked as a clown for a year, okay?
Yeah.
When you must have been, you said you were 7 years older, so you must have been about 8 years old. Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
Well, I remember his absence. Yeah.
Like, what were you thinking? Like, were you like, why is he gone? Like, I mean,
Well,
to run
I'm not
away.
sure I did. I'm not sure I gave it a lot of thought because I had nothing to relate to. You know,
Right.
like I didn't know. It's not like I had other big brothers or sisters who stayed in the house until they were 21. Like I had this one, and all of a sudden he decided to, I'll say, run away from home. I mean, I don't think he actually ran, but to go out in the world,
Yeah.
and that was it. And then he was gone. It was
But
like
it,
a magic thing, you know. Poof.
yeah. But like as a for at that age, at 15, and to what was he? He was trying to be a magician, or um,
Well, he
he
went through a number of different incarnations, but I think he started off just thinking he was going to be a clown. He was going to join the circus, like that proverbial joke, get a
sure.
runaway from the circus. And then not long after that, I think he realized, as I'm sure you know the movie,
Yeah,
the
Canadian as a Canadian entertainer. Yeah, oh yeah, you learn quickly. Going, you know what? I kind of miss house. Yeah,
yeah,
I miss money when that green stuff that people have.
yeah.
Uh, you know,
Well, and a roof over your head. I mean, being a clown is not exactly the best job in the world.
no, and
Uh,
well, it was back in God. He must have been. We're talking maybe this 60s. He did. He must have did this. No, he must have did this 58,
yeah,
1950s. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So and so
But it didn't last. That career didn't last very long.
no,
He
but if he
decided that he was going to get into show business
yeah, but
in a different.
it opened the doors for him. He was
Yep.
he when did he not work with the real Wolfman? And what I wanted to ask you about the Wolfman was, did he get that idea like to get the Wolfman on the show to on on the Hilarious House?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think they were separate and apart.
Okay.
We had done Frightenstein already, and then it was years after that. And he was doing specials for the CBC and for HBO and all kind of things like that. And the idea came up just to do a Wolfman Jack special because Wolfman Jack was hot. He had been hot for years, and the CBC was looking for a rock and roll special. So it just made sense. I mean, the fact that we had done a Wolfman Jack knockoff, if you will, years earlier, was a bit of a coincidence. But I guess you're right. The seed was there, you know.
Right, right. No, I had to
So
ask because I always thought, to have a brother just leave. I remember my little brother left. He moved to Toronto by himself, and he left home, and it was just kind of weird to have my little brother gone, and I'm like
well,
shocked.
it was weird. But I'll tell you the truth. I mean, I don't really remember it. I mean, that would have been a very, very long time ago.
Right.
So I'm sure I had an empty feeling,
Sure.
just like if any member of your family sort of
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
left the table all of a sudden. But like I say, I had nothing to relate to. I didn't have any friends whose brother or sister
Yeah.
left the house and went out to seek their fame and fortune.
All right. All
Um,
right. Well, let's end it on a good note here. I don't want to end it on that. I don't want to end it on that. I had to ask because when I read that, I always thought, I just picture a little kid going, "Where the hell's my brother?" So,
yeah.
um, what is your famous, like, what is there something that you remember on set that just something that tickled you, where you just thought, this is fun. Like, like where you just go, like, I know that it was such a busy schedule and you had to
On
get
the
going.
Frightenstein set,
Yes. Anything
no,
that
no, there was nothing that tickled me. That was, I get asked all the time at shows, what was your best part about the show? And the truth, Vito, is there was no good part. It was a very, very, very tough job. I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever worked that much, had that much pressure or strain or anxiety or angst in any other job in my life,
Well, it's a world
because we
record, man.
it was a Herculean kind
Oh,
of event where we created what would have taken sort of 3 to 4 years to produce in 9 months.
yes.
So it was an enormous pressure. Now the good part has been the 46 years since we finished doing the show, because now I just get to look back. I got all the memories. I get to meet all the fans and do all these shows and things. The Comic Cons and festivals and interviews like yours. But this is the good part.
Now, would you ever consider, like, and you never knew a schedule like that, but has anybody ever come to you and said, I want to do that Hilarious House of Frankenstein? You say, no, that's impossible. You can't, because you could never rekindle that magic. A guy asked me, he said, well, why doesn't, this is like me, my thoughts on it.
Mhm.
I just think, for me, I would sit there and go, no. If Mitch were to ever do a show, it would not be like the Hilarious House of Frankenstein. It just can't, because so many are gone. Like, it would be like the Three Stooges movie. Everybody thought it was a great idea until they saw it and said, this isn't, this is. I'm like, what do you expect? It's not the Three Stooges, you know.
Well,
So
the answer to your question is, as a matter of fact, I'm about this close. I'm holding my forefinger and my thumb almost together to signing a deal with the company. It'll probably be signed over the next couple of weeks for them to represent the Hilarious House of Frightenstein.
good. I
And
want to play the
what
count. I just want to throw
what
that
they
out
have
there.
on what we're looking to do is to get the original series back on the air
Right.
in Canada and the U.S. and maybe abroad, because that's all available. I have those 130 episodes. They're also we're talking about doing a possible reboot, which is redoing the original show. Wouldn't be done maybe exactly the same
No,
way,
you can't do it exactly the
and
same.
you can't replace those people, but there are different people that could do the job. For example,
Vito
um,
D'Amico, yes, I totally agree with you there.
well, I'll put that on the list. But there are people like, for example, Alice Cooper is a huge fan of Frightenstein.
Sure.
And I think that he could probably handle doing Vincent Price's part. And he brings a different kind of cachet to the table. Like Vincent Price was the biggest star of his day in that genre, that had no accent, could speak English perfectly, that was suave and debonair as he was.
Right.
I mean, I mean, they were dead already by then, but there was Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney and Boris Karloff, but Vincent Price was the man in my
Yes.
mind.
Yes, he was.
So I can't replace him. But Alice Cooper, as an example, has a huge, huge, huge
That is
music
yeah,
following, rock and
yes.
roll following. So there are people like there were people back then who said, "Oh my God, our kid is sitting in the living room watching a television show starring Vincent Price. Like I loved his movies." Well, it's the same thing, the same kind of cachet that Alice could bring to the
Yes.
show. When it comes to filling the Count role, as an example, as we've already discussed, Mike Myers was a huge fan of our show,
Right.
and lots of big stars like Mike and like Alice take gigs not necessarily for the compensation; they take it as a passion project.
Yes. Well, he's
You know,
he's even said that.
yeah. So Jim Carrey, as an example, again, a huge fan. He and his older brother and his kid sister used to sit together and watch our show. I could see him being a wild and zany Count Frightenstein.
Yeah.
Um, um, and there are other people, like Russell Peters is a huge fan of the show.
Right.
He would make a very odd kind of Count
No,
Frightenstein.
he'd be awful at it. So,
All
um,
right, wait a minute, I'll put an X next to his
yeah,
name.
please do. Please, a big couple
Um,
of
Eu-
X's, so then that way you get that right out
Eugene
of your
Levy,
mind.
as an
Yes,
example, with
Eugene
those
Levy
great
would
big
be
bushy
fantastic.
eyebrows,
Yes.
he'd make a great professor.
Yes, yes, you're right. You're
Uh,
right, because I thought of it as trying to recapture magic, where I mean, to me it would be a mistake to get a guy to go, I want you to act just like Billy Van did. I thought,
no,
no, you
can't
can't. You can't.
can't do that.
Yeah, you can't.
You know, I'll tell you a funny story, Vito. If you have time, I'll tell you a quick story. I get asked that question, the one you just asked, about 10 million times. I know you
I'm
tried to
sorry.
avoid.
I'm
No,
sorry.
no, but listen, I avoided the question always. I just sloughed that question off. I would never answer it until this one guy just kept hocking me and pushing me. So I finally said, all right, fuck you. I'll think of somebody. So I thought about it for 30 seconds. And the first thing that came to my mind, the only guy I could think of back then, this was years ago, who had as fast a wit as Billy, who was as funny as Billy, arguably, and could have handled the gig, was Robin Williams. And I
Yeah.
blurted
Oh
his name
God.
out. And
Oh
then
God.
about 2 or 3 months after that, Robin was gone.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is folklore because I ran it by a few people and I said, is it true that Mitch wrote?
No,
Okay, so I'm
it's
sorry. I
not.
won't
It's,
even
it's
go
not
there.
true.
I won't even go there. And
No,
when
it's okay. It's a good question, and I'll give you a fast answer because it happens to me all the time. People are always asking, coming up to me. They don't even ask; they just assume. I loved your movie. I loved Good Morning Vietnam, and I know you wrote a couple episodes of MASH. And believe it or not, Vito, there is more than one Mitch Markowitz in the entertainment
yes, of
industry.
course. Even Vito
And
D'Amico. I sent you the IMDb of me, and it has me in 1973. And I'm
mhm,
going, and what it is there's another guy, another actor called Vito D'Amico. So they put mine and his together. And
yeah,
to me, I don't argue. I go, this is great. I've been in these movies. This is fantastic. You know?
that's exactly what happens with me. They put the IMDb and Wikipedia, combine the two.
Right.
And I feel sorry for the other guy because wherever he's walking, whether it's in Hollywood or New York or wherever, I'm sure people are always coming up to him saying, "Ooga booga,"
Yeah.
and he's saying, "Leave me alone with Ooga booga. I didn't write or produce or star in Frightenstein."
I bet you he'd lie and say yes, he did. Because it's a great show, Mitch. I'm not saying it to kiss your ass. You know that. I
Yeah,
honestly think it's something where if that were me, I'd lie.
well, that's very nice
I
of
would
you.
just say, yeah, that's me. You want my
And
autograph?
that's very kind of you.
Can I kiss your good looking wife, or is that your girlfriend? I mean, I would never ever. You have to remember something that is important about that show. You're used to it. You were there. We talk about Vietnam a lot, but that was Vietnam for you, okay?
Yeah,
And it was work, and but look what it brought you, and it brought you this body of work that kids just it just tickles them. It gives them this sometimes at night going to bed I could picture Griselda banging her head, or and it just kind of puts me in a good mood, you know,
yeah,
and that is a gift that a lot of people money no matter what we're talking about the Bentley, sure, the Bentley's worth a fortune, but the memory, the germ of that memory will never rust away, you know. And when you
well, you
have
got
that,
away with words, Vito.
well, when you have that, and even my kid's a fan. I mean, my kid's a fan. Okay, like what are we talking about? We're talking about something that was, okay, was made in 1971, and there's still children that watch the show. Okay, like that is incredible. That is,
Yeah,
you cannot you just cannot fathom that because you're on the other side of the fence. You don't see it the way us mere mortals do.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I hope you do that project. I really do because I think it'd be very successful. And I know
Well,
it.
there's a big demand, and as you know, lots of stuff is getting rebooted these days.
Yes,
No,
it
I've
is.
never been. I'll tell you the truth. I've never been a fan of reboots. Like in my mind, there's only one person who could play in the Thomas Crown Affair, and that's Steve McQueen.
Right.
Um, but somebody did do a reboot of the Thomas Crown Affair, and they reboot this and they reboot that, and sometimes it works.
Yes. Well, it's you know what it is. It's a gamble But if
Yeah,
you've got tools, I mean, you're talking about big names like Jim Carrey and Mike Myers. I mean, Mike Myers is a bloody genius. Same with Jim Carrey. I mean,
yeah.
those guys there, if, I mean, I hope you do. Those guys there, you give them something like that. Good grief, man. I mean, it just, you can't go wrong. I mean, that's like making the best meal if you have the right ingredients. You could, and that's what you need. And you lucked out with Billy Van. You did a great
Yep.
job by getting him. If you didn't
Yeah.
have Billy Van, I guarantee you we wouldn't be talking right now about the
Oh
show.
no, absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
You know, and that's the truth. I'm sorry,
It
Mitch.
would have looked like
Yeah.
a high school production.
Yes, it would not have had the. I mean, you just. I steal from Billy Van just from the looks of Igor. I've got an incredible idea. I do that to my son. I've got that's what he'll say something. I say I've got an incredible idea. If he came up with the idea, and they all know where I got that from, and they
Yeah.
know just the look. And would you say something? And the eyebrows and that's all stolen. And people say, well, I took it from Buster Keaton, or I took, you listen to comics talk about it, where they got it from. Mike Myers, where he got his from. Well,
Yeah.
that's where, I mean, his soul kind of resonates through people when you watch and study somebody. And that's what, when I was stand up, you would just study the person. You study
Yeah.
and study and study, and you would sit there and it's the little things that made that person. It was the
Speaking of studying, and this is not a great segue, but I'll use it anyway. I'd like to tell your listeners my Twitter address in
sure,
case
sure,
any of them happen to be on Twitter,
yes,
and it's at, as everybody knows, Twitter. All the handles start with an at sign, and then it's I'm, as in I am, TVS Super Hippie, SUPERIHIPPY. So I'm TV's Super Hippie.
Eh,
And whenever I'm going to be somewhere, if I'm doing a Comic Con or a festival or I'm on the road somewhere, I always post that information on my Twitter account. So
yes, but I'm going
people
to put a
should.
link to that. I'm going to put
Oh,
a link.
great!
Yes, I'm going to put a link to that so everybody will know that. So they
By the
could
time
just.
we're finished here, you're going to have enough links for
No,
breakfast.
no, we're gonna rock and roll because I know that we're
That was a
just.
little sausage joke there.
Yeah, what's sausage? I married a Canadian girl. I'm starving to death. All right, so
I know. And the worst part about it is you order some pasta and what comes? Spaghetti with ketchup sauce.
no, no, she won't dare do that. She knows I would like seriously start like acting like a child like I always do,
But
and
that is
just
a great scene, the closing of Goodfellas.
and that movie. I haven't seen that movie in so many years. Everybody tells me about. I've not seen that movie in over 20 years, and
Why? It's my favorite movie.
I think it's just I tell you all these mafia things, but to my dad, to his credit, I talk about the mafia, and I'm like, Dad, blah blah blah, and he's like, you think those guys are heroes? Like you actually think what those guys steal, and they murder people, and you think that's a hero?
You know what? Your dad sounds exactly like Henry Hill's father in the movie.
Yeah, but that's the truth, though, Mitch. It's like if I thought about it. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to think, I used to go crazy about Daryl Sittler and movie stars and I would think to myself, I realize, you know what, my dad works like a dog. I don't. I mean,
Yeah,
my hero's my dad. Like,
yeah.
not these guys.
Good for you.
These guys don't give a shit about you. You know, uh, my dad always, Christmas. Yeah, they work like a dog. My mom didn't buy, you know, clothing for herself just to have, so I'd have
Yeah,
stuff. So, anyways,
good for you, man.
so always remember that, kids. Unless your dad's a deadbeat, then I'm sorry. And then, but if you do, your heroes are always your parents, and respect them, please. And I'm gonna put up the links to the show. I'm gonna put a link to
No, I
everything.
don't know if you planned it or not, but what a perfect way to go out on that thought about your family, you know?
Well, it's just called I'm a great closer. That's why they use me once a year at the policeman's ball. Then they arrest me and I get a ride home. So, folks, I'm gonna put up all the links and bug Mitch on Twitter, and he says that he is gonna respond to you, and he will, but it will probably be rude. I mean, the pictures he puts up, yeah. I mean, you deal with it yourself. But I'm going to put up all the links, and you look at them, and please, if you haven't watched the show, you've been living under a rock. It is one of the greatest Canadian shows ever made. Hilarious House of Frankenstein was an institution. Okay,
Oh,
so
thank you, Vito. That's
so
very nice of you.
and you were a big part of it, a big part of it. Okay, so I know you say no, I didn't. I'm not. No, you were, Mitch. So um, I just want to say the castle lights are growing dim. There's no one here left but me and him. When next we meet in Frankenstein, don't come alone.